Wondering if your device supports the Mixed Reality Toolkit? Well, I have great news. The Mixed Reality Toolkit has cross-platform support. So what that means is that you're pretty flexible with regards to which device you could actually use. Now, beyond the HoloLens and the HoloLens 2, you can deploy projects that make use of the Mixed Reality Toolkit to a variety of devices, which include the HTC Vive, Oculus Rift, Oculus Quest, Android and iOS devices, as well as the Leap Motion by Ultraleap.
Hi everyone, I'm here with Nick and Blair from Crux, and we have some audio noise from somewhere. And and I'll just give the floor to you, and happy to hear about Black Imagination and live performance in XR.
Great, thanks, Mark.
Appreciate it. So Nick, here we are.
Here we are. Hey Blair, good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
Yeah.
It's not like I talk to you all the time, every day. So this is so exciting and new. Yeah. As you mentioned, we're here today to talk a little bit about Black Imagination and live performance in XR, which we're excited to share with you all. So should we start?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm Nick Levins, and this is Blair Russell. I'll give a little introduction about the series that we run, and also a little introduction of Blair. The Black Imagination series is a project that we started with the company Crux. Crux is a cooperative focused on centering Black artists in storytelling, and Blair approached Crux with the idea of starting to do theater in the XR space. So that's what we did. We started migrating and experimenting with theater in XR. We called it the Black Imagination series, and that's what we're here to talk about. Blair is a producer from the theater world. He's a producer on the Broadway show Slave Play, which just reopened yesterday, I believe.
Yes, last night.
Congratulations, Blair. That's huge. His experience ranges from things all over the place. And literally, Blair is always in a different location whenever we talk. He teaches at Princeton. He's produced all over the country. He's worked globally, and I'm so happy to always be working with you, Blair. And one of the things that I really love about collaborating with you is your ability to clearly articulate a client's desires and translate those into actionable next steps, which is really hard to do when you're moving people from live performance into a virtual space. And Blair has this magical way of getting everybody to understand what we're talking about, how we're doing it, and then making it reality. So I really appreciate you, Blair, and I'm happy to talk with you today.
Well, thank you. I'm also really excited to be talking to you, Nick. So just to give a little background, Nick has many, many titles, some which I don't even know all the time, but he's worked as a writer and director in theater and film, obviously as a producer in those categories, as well as in the XR space. And he has numerous credits at some institutions, which you may have heard of, Museum of Modern Art, the Atlantic Theater. The other day, he told me that he once almost became an agent, which was a surprise to me. But Nick also, more importantly, has started a consulting business that works with arts organizations and many social justice organizations, and basically like growth and having the ethical organizations. Correct? I mean, that's kind of what you're centering in that in that practice. So when we met originally, we came together to do the first iteration of the Black Imagination series, which we'll talk about. But now, I think since then, Nick has become a real rock for me. I think if I'm the one who's good at sort of synthesizing the client's ideas, he's the one who's really good at dealing with the emotional labor of all of that. And he's the one who reminds me of the things that I'm supposed to do so that I stay on task and get things done. So I think we have a good yin-yang balance, right?
Yeah, I think so. Which is a great transition, I think, from talking about who we are and what we do to showing people what we do. So Blair put together a few slides so that we can really contextualize what the Black Imagination series is. And we're going to attempt to share that right now.
Am I sharing? I feel like I'm sharing.
You are.
This is just a photo of our Crux family in a hot tub, because why not? Sometimes we do meetings in hot tubs. We're big fans of exploration and exploring new spaces, new ways to gather. So you can see Nick and I pretty much in the same exact spot. Are you in the same? It looks like you have more photos now, but doing the thing that we always do. Yes. So the first project that we talked about is the initial instance of the Black Imagination series. As Nick mentioned, that this came out of the idea of me wanting to produce theater in VR. I, for many years, was interested in how we could leverage technology to make theater more accessible, to expand our audiences, and frankly, to do something that's important, which is create more income for producing organizations. At the same time, Crux was exploring, particularly for Black-led theater organizations, the same exact thing. How can we have these theaters reaching the audiences that they want to reach, whether that's locally or, nationally, internationally? So I was talking to everybody about wanting to do this in the theater world, and everybody was like, that's weird, I don't know what you're talking about, and I don't like it. And so I sort of put the idea to bed for a while until there was a global pandemic, in which I was like, okay, somebody has to care about this now. So through connections, I was connected to Lauren Ruffin, who's one of the co-founders of Crux, and Nick by extension, and we had this crazy idea to, like, as I said, just do it. We're just going to do it. Having a theater background, when you say you want to do something, I think we both know that means like the 5-year journey. Yeah. But working with Nick, it meant let's do it in a couple months. So we quickly made a couple of choices about that. We wanted to use the Oculus Quest since they were really easy, easy accessible and easy to get to people. And we wanted to use a social VR platform so that we weren't building things from the ground up. So through that, we decided to use AltSpace VR, and we created what we called like the theater island. We commissioned 3 Black female playwrights. We hired 5 Black performers. We got them trained on the Oculus Quest. We introduced them to just VR in general. None of them had worked with any kind of VR XR tools before. And within, I would say, a couple months, we were performing our first live shows for an audience, right?
That's right. Yeah, I think that even for the artist, from the artist standpoint, it was even a shorter timeline than that.
Right.
What was and what you're looking at here is Blair's avatar in the AltSpace platform, which I got to say that everybody there's a range of people representing their avatar's likeness, and Blair really nailed it with his design of himself. But what was, I think, was really interesting, and my background in the theater world is very much based in development of playwright scripts. That was my bread and butter for years, and I love working with playwrights. It is such a different experience attempting to get writers to first understand and then imagine what they can do in virtual spaces. So this was a really steep learning curve for all of us. And what I think was probably one of the best lessons for both Blair and I was, how do we get artists to first understand and then create for? And that was a lesson that we'll talk about more with some of the other projects in our larger conversation, but was probably the best lesson we got from it.
And what was nice about that in our discovery is that we really saw the artist expand and figure out ways to leverage the technology. So you'll see here, this is a photo of actually the end of one of the performances. And the way that the writer said it, it was set at an HBCU homecoming celebration. So instead of it being the traditional proscenium setting with the audience on one side and the actors on the stage, it was actually all of the audience was mixed into this homecoming setting, and the scenes would happen in different places, in front of the tree or on the stage or, you know, to the side behind a rock, and the audience was able to sort of be flies on the wall the way you would if there was real drama going on in an event that you were at. So you can see that this is a mix of our performers and our audience, all who had come in their avatars to join us for this. And like Nick said, there was so many huge takeaways from that, but the learning about just the onboarding process, that's a word and a concept that we've taken through every project that we have done since then. So another project we have here, we worked with an organization out of New York, which is called New York Live Arts and the Bill T. Jones Dance Company. And they were looking to do an event that they host every year called Live Artery. And they wanted to take it virtual, like many people had to over the past couple of years with their annual events. And what we created for them was this 3D virtual world on a platform that's called Spatial Web. And anyone who is attending this event, which is essentially a conference for folks to come in and view dance pieces or art pieces or films, they were able to come into this 3D world, navigate around the world, interact with other folks in the space. And because it uses spatialized audio, you can have a conversation in one corner or watch a video in one room and sort of treat it like you would a real life event. What they really wanted was that intersection of artists sort of bumping into producers and bumping into audience members. And so you'll see, as I show a couple of photos, we created this 3D world, and then we also created little like micro spaces and ways to help the audience members navigate, including like colored squares on the floor to say, oh, if you want to do this, go into the room, the blue room or the red room. And we had labels on the walls. And in this next slide, you'll see all of the circles you see within the purple square, those are people who are attending. And while this is a screenshot from a bird's eye view, you can also have a first person view. And so they were all from a first person perspective, watching that screen you see in the back where there's a dance piece going on from the company. So you're getting audio reactions from people who are close to you. You're able to navigate in and out of the room. You're able to have private conversations. And then you're even able to give visual feedback, including applause. We have a little bit fire for the lit symbol. And so we were really able to kind of create this really, I would say vital and alive space for this, what is typically an in-person event to happen.
Yeah, it was a pretty cool event. And I think what's important to note here about this is, the actual presentation of the dance was fairly standard presentation. We were just live streaming it. There's a lot of conversations that happen about hybrid events. How do we do a hybrid event? And something like this is the most straightforward way to have something that is a stream, but give it an in-person feel when you're virtual. So like Blair said, we're putting people in spaces where because of spatial sound, you feels like you're in a room, and you can move around the space. But for people that prefer traditional type of experience and just want to stream, they also could do that too. So this would be, on the more straightforward, more standard type of presentation of things that we've done. And then what's up next, Blair? I forget what we have up next.
Next, we're talking about our MOSFest presentation.
Yes.
So I know, and Nick, I'll let you get into this a little bit of how it came to be, but I know looking at this, you're like, what is happening? It looks like one of those things you used to have as a kid where you had to get close and pull back and you would see a picture. But what you're actually in is the Flowbot universe. And we have 3 characters who are doing a little bit of a live performance, which Nick will talk about.
Yeah, so this is Darian's last name, Blair, remind me.
Doshan.
Darian Doshan. So Darian's a creator that I met at a film festival years ago, and he had an award-winning web series called The Adventures of Robot Johnson, which if you haven't checked it out, just do yourself a favor after this and go check out Darian's work. It's really spectacular. He's created a whole universe of the Brobots, which are hip hop robots that were created by a mad scientist, and they also have their own planet. And this piece, the Battle of the Flowbots, is a hip hop rap battle or hip hop battle that takes place on the planet, which is called whatever. It doesn't matter.
Planet Nubia.
Planet Nubia. There, see, Blair remembers all these things, and it's just good fun. And we did it in Mozilla's platform Hubs, which is very customizable, similar to AltSpace, and streamed it into Hubs during MozFest. The cool thing about this was we can create the Flowbots. So normally Darian would present this as a theater piece. Or present similar works as a theater piece or a web series. In this case, the challenge was putting our actors into headsets, then putting them into hubs in a customized space that our developers worked on, and it was a lot of fun. I just want to pause for the challenges that come across when doing this. Normally, when we're doing theater, we have a few weeks where actors have scripts in hand, they're memorizing lines, they come in, they can work on it. In this case, everything was virtual, and you can't have a script in your hand when you have a headset on. I mean, you can, but you can't see it. So it doesn't really help you very much. So we had to figure out ways of how do we maintain the integrity of what live performance is at the same time as we're allowing our actors to organically discover and be able to explore their artistic integrity. And in this case, we realized about, I don't know, maybe 3 days into the process that it made more sense for us to create an audio track of the piece where the hip hop audio could be recorded. The backing track could be laid over it. And then what the actors are doing is really movement based. And it worked very, very well. And it was a completely unusual piece for anything that I've seen in Hubs. It was one of my favorite things that I've seen in Hubs. And it was a lot of fun. But Darian's work is always great. And we had a really fantastic team on this one. It was a real joy to work on.
Absolutely. And, in addition to this work, we've done work with other organizations. We worked with the Actors Theater of Louisville on a project called Ali Summit, where essentially we created in VR chat this almost a virtual museum in which audience members were able to embody a series of be embodied in a character in this space, but then travel through what starts out as a museum and then becomes storytelling written by Idris Goodwin, who wrote a piece that initially was going to be a sort of mixed performance piece, right? It was going to include dance and spoken word. And what we created is a virtual reality experience where you were hearing his language while navigating through these different worlds, completing some challenges. And so you're learning history, you're engaging. And we had original characters that were created by a local artist, all within the VR chat platform, which if you've ever done, it has a lot of it's very customizable. So we were able to create this pretty extensive experience that, though it wasn't a live performance piece, it still felt very theatrical and alive to audiences, which is something that we'll talk about a little later. So
yeah,
looking back at it, Nick, we've done a lot.
we have. And it's fun as we kind of chart through the progression of the Black Imagination series to see the different iterations and different platforms, especially when we're juxtaposing it next to where we're going next. So I think, and it's really, the pandemic has, for good and bad, governed a lot of what we're doing. So these fully virtual experiences were a byproduct of the necessity of what the pandemic forced upon us. Whereas now we're starting to look at things that are really truly hybrid, or for the first time, streaming live performance in volumetric video, which I'm really excited about the potential of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I have a feeling that we have some questions for each other.
We do. Now you're making it sound like we actually planned this, which we did, but I don't know any of the questions you're going to ask me. So
yeah. So for those of you who are watching, Blair and I decided that we were going to surprise each other with questions. So to kind of just keep that ephemeral nature of live performance real for you. So Blair, do you want me to start?
I think I'll start.
Okay.
I'm gonna talk about it. I'm gonna talk about the elephant in the room. So this session is called Black Imagination and Live Performance, and I don't know if you know this, but you're white. So Nick, why are you working? Why are you interested in Black Imagination? Why are you working for Crux, this black led organization?
Yeah. So I've worked to try to address the systematic inequality that is present within the arts for most of my career. It's really important to me. And I started working with Crux, the organization that Blair and I met each other working with, because I just loved the idea of what they were doing, centering Black artists and voices while building wealth for the Black community. All of our systems in society are skewed against people of color. That's just a fact. We all live in that world, and it's terrible. And in the art world, we live in a world that sees itself as a progressive place, but acts with conservative values. The way that our institutions are structured are actively oppressive. And I think that's terrible. So when I found Crux, I just really geeked out on what they were doing. My background, besides being an artist, is my specialty is in ethical institution building. And so the idea of something that was designed to solve these problems was really fascinating and exciting to me. So that's the philosophical thing. But realistically, at this point, if we are all not working actively to address these problems in our day-to-day lives, it's a problem. And I think that more people that look like I do need to understand that, work towards addressing systematic inequality in a way that doesn't benefit or center them. So that's why I'm here. I love the team that I get to work with, you, the rest of the Crux team, the rest of the Black Imagination team, and it's a great thing day to day. And because we get to work to try to solve the problem of the historical, and I'm losing my words, Blair. But Black artists have been taken advantage of at every step of creation, and we have the potential to change that as the XR space is brand new. The metaverse that's being thrown around. Oof, that word, I said it. And if we can give Black artists the opportunity to be centered, to make money off of their work from the beginning for the first time. And that's really exciting and important to me. So that's why I'm here.
And we are happy to have you. We get one, and it's you.
I appreciate that. Now I have a question for you. Okay. So we work with a lot of different types of organizations. We work with a lot of different types of artists. And I feel like there's always some fundamental misunderstandings about what XR is and how it can be used. So what are those misunderstandings, and how can people approach the work in a way that can avoid those?
I think one of the things that we always run into when we are in initial conversations, when we are introducing the ideas to people, is the cost And I'm going to say that as the umbrella around all of the other answers to this question, which is what people think it is not what it is. What people imagine is something that they've done in virtual reality at an amusement park, or it must be some expensive headset-based project where you need millions of dollars like these AAA developers are using. So the immediate thought is that any kind of engagement with XR is expensive and difficult and needs a lot of people. And those misunderstandings sort of stem from just a lack of knowledge about what is possible. And for me, the most important thing that I can try to do as I'm talking to people is just share. There's so much that's going on in the space. There's so much that's going on that people do not realize and do not see. From the type of work that we're doing in social VR platforms, yes, but there are groups and organizations that are checking every box of the entertainment and performance field, from plays and theater to music to poetry to dance, and the ways that they're engaging with that is different. It is not all I have to buy an Oculus Quest and I have to have an app and I have to put it on the headset and it has to be a fully realized experience. XR is XR for a reason. It spans many different ideas, many different technologies, and many different uses. So from the type of work that we do with augmented reality to mixed reality experiences, and I think I love the idea of augmented reality because that's literally what it's doing, is augmenting, and we could call it augmented performance. Not everything that we're going to do is going to be this fully realized AAA version, headset. Sometimes engaging with technology in live performance is something that is not the center of the performance. It's a piece of it, or it augments it. So I hope that if anyone is like new to this, they're really coming into it like almost everything you do. If I pick up my cell phone here, like I'm suddenly augmenting reality, and this can be utilized in performance. So don't get too worried about the huge versions of this that you see, the versions that may be the most popular, and really think about how this can be a part of the process. I also think that there's a huge focus on adapting things to work in XR. And if there's one thing that I discovered coming from the theater and worrying about the theater and what is it and how do we make it relevant in this world that is so technology driven, it's that figuring out what theater is in XR is a completely new thing. It doesn't start with us trying to turn what we already have into something that fits. It starts with us trying to create the thing in those spaces. And when you're dealing with more traditional organizations or more traditional thinking, that's really a hurdle that's hard to overcome, because we all want it to be a play. I love plays. I'm never going to not love a play, and that can happen, but it will look a little bit different, but it will feel the same.
Can I add something to that? I think you really hit on something that's important. The thing that I think we keep learning, the more people that come to us wanting to work with us from the technology side, is that there's a lot of really amazing tech out there, but there's not a lot of really great story. And what I think that this series, why this series is so important, so relevant, is that the Black theater has such good storytelling, such good storytellers, and getting them integrated, getting those stories integrated with all of this amazing tech. It might not look like a play, but if you have the people with the vision, with the imagination coming in and lending their voice to this technology that to date hasn't really hit a lot of successful, it has hit successes with integrating good story into the technology. That's what gets really exciting to me. And that's where I feel like we're always on the cusp of like continuing to break this thing open that is that hasn't been broken open yet.
Well, that leads into my next question for you, which is you hinted at a little bit earlier that the world is changing a little bit. We had such a period of like creativity and discovery because people had to had to do what we were offering.
Yeah.
As people are going back in person, as folks are considering what the future looks like for themselves, the organizations, the art that they create, how do you see XR being a part of the new hybrid world? Do you think that there's a different path we're taking, or
it's that word hybrid gets thrown around so much right now. We have meetings with people that want to do hybrid things, and the idea behind hybrid, the idea that people come to the table with, is often that we're doing something in person, but we learn that people everywhere want to have access to what we're doing. So how can we film it and give it to the people who aren't there? Which is a great idea, because you're addressing a different type of systematic inequality there that needs to be addressed. The challenge is it might not be organic to either population. You might be putting the in-person group at a disadvantage by forcing this thing, cameras in front of them or whatever it is, or you might be giving your virtual audience not as good of a presentation because you're just streaming something out. So the question is, like, how do we do this in ways that it is organic and fun and true to the audience members that we want to serve? And I think that there are a lot of really exciting answers that are coming up. There's a company, the Round, that got in contact with us a few months ago that we're hoping to work with, that is doing live stream of volumetric video and motion capture. The live stream of motion capture has happened already. The live streaming of volumetric is fairly new and cutting edge technology, just because the file sizes are massive. So they're working with partners that have found ways to address this with AI to clean up the imagery and compress the files. So I'm really excited to see what we can do with that, specifically with dance and theater. I think there will be a lot of things that can happen with that haven't been done before. And so there's some things that are further out that I'm really looking forward to. You were talking about augmented reality, and augmented reality I find to sometimes be fairly limiting right now, because you almost have to use your phone, and it's such a small thing. I guess Apple's going to be releasing their headset in 2022, and it looks like it will be an augmented reality headset. So, which will be a game changer, because we'll be able to do things and put it into a full space with you. And you think about that combined with the technology that the Round is using, and it just makes anything possible all of a sudden. You can walk into the park and put your headset on and watch, slave play or something like that. Or you can, and the idea of doing that is completely revolutionary.
It's the future. That's the future.
We're living the future's now, Blair. The future
is now.
Yeah. So I'm excited for things like that. I'm also excited for things that are truly headset experiences that are using things like facial tracking, so that we can actually have those social VR platforms be more useful for something like a play. But I think that there's a lot of movement happening now.
I like that. This is so you to say we need facial tracking, not to improve the social interactions and engagement, but so the actors can be more expressive, because Nick is going to sit in the corner at any social event and avoid.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, we have discovered that in social platforms, real life things are replicated, and I'm a bit introverted in real life, and as I am in social platforms, and I will just go in the corner and not talk to you. Something to look forward to. Yeah. So more questions for Blair. What's something that you want to see in the XR space that doesn't exist right now?
Oh man, I feel like there have been a number of experiences that are on like the cusp of like my perfect experience. And you know what I think it is? You know what I think we need to figure out is how to transform the experience of like a Netflix rabbit hole into an experience that you do in VR or in XR, where it's like I am a part of a journey, and then I'm going to be able to continue that over the long term, like the really long term engagement, because it is a challenge. It's a challenge to for a lot of people to like put on that headset right now. So how is it something that maybe I start in headset and then I do something on my phone, and then when we have like, you know, the augmented reality, like how do I get it across platform? That's another thing that people are really doing, because some of the best things that I've done are like the Under, where you go into this world and just being in the world's an experience, but then there's one you go left and you've got the time boat experience, and you go right and they're doing the Tempest, and so it kind of continually engages you.
Yeah,
that's what I want to see. I want to be a part of a television. I want to be in a television show.
Yeah,
in across these platforms.
That's really exciting, and I think that speaks to this idea of bringing the storytelling to the immersion of what XR is, because it doesn't necessarily need to only live within one portion of it. And the movement from the theater world of doing things like Sleep No More, where you're going and walking around a warehouse that's made to look like some crazy something. Anyway, that's another
different conversation.
But we can do things like that with this. You know, we can have that full experience that's really fleshed out over time, over virtual space. And that's really exciting storytelling. I think that's a really great answer.
Yeah, I can't wait. I mean, I may have to make it. I should make it.
I think that's what we're going to do. I think that we're hoping that there's someone on this call that will
make it with us
and help us make these things that we want to make.
So, Nick, the M word, you said it, and then we pulled back. But the metaverse, I guess as an organization, as artists, as people who are wanting to explore and wanting to continue to build and wanting to look at the future, is this something we lean into? Is it something we lean away from? Is it something we track?
Yeah, you know, I gotta say, like, Zuck really zucked it up, I think. And well, because this is already something that's happening. And him coming out and announcing that they're doing this thing that is already happening across multiple platforms, across multiple devices, is kind of like co-opting like the XR community's work on like just en masse, and which is a bummer for a lot of reasons. So I think we do lean into it, but I think that I guess the challenge for us, for our collaborators, is how do we do it in a way that doesn't lean it into what they want it to be, but what artists can envision the world to be. What I think that we continue to learn, that the two of us, continue to learn, is that when artists lead iterations of technology, the technology is more useful for people. It's more useful for the storytelling. It's more engaging. When it's led solely by developers, we keep hitting the limitation of what someone is telling us they want it to be. So I think that there's an organic spot of collaboration between developer and storyteller. So that's why I get very excited when organizations like The Round come to us and want us to work with them to help figure out how their technology is going to be used, how their technology is going to be deployed. And that also gets exciting because then we can work with our artistic partners to really, really showcase this thing. And then we're going to hear from someone else who's going to be like, oh my God, this is a great idea. What if we tried this? And it's going to be something that we've never thought of before.
Artists are so good at centering people. And this is not to say that developers are not thinking of people. They of course are thinking of people, but I think often things are being created to solve a problem. and not really focus on like the human element of it. So when you bring artists into that process, they're really going to center the human experience. How are people really going to genuinely respond to this, not just how functional is something? And I also think we know that having a diversity of voices in these conversations is so valuable. We see all the challenges with the way that the technology is created and who it centers and who it doesn't. It's one of the reasons why we do what we do, just to let people know that we're here and we have ideas and perspectives on how things would be created. I hope that we're able to talk about, the avatars. I hope, I'm very proud and excited that I was able to create an avatar that looked like me in alt space. And also, when we did that, those had just come out, those new avatars. So it was like before that, it was just like you were a blackhead. So
and for a while it was just like, you're a white person.
Yes.
You're a white person.
This is what you are. This is what you get. So I think we're coming up to the end here where we got to take some questions from the audience, but while we wait to see if anything comes through, do you have a final question, or we can do a speed round? I love a good speed round.
Let's do speed round. This is a tough one. What can the performance industry do better? We talked a lot about artists, but what can the industry itself do better to support this movement?
I think people need to see it as a land of opportunity and not see it as a threat or something to be afraid of. That's it. We like performance, and you have a venue, and I get it, but also you can rapidly expand your business by engaging technology. I moderated a whole session just about businesses in XR. So that's stop being afraid. Really.
That's a good answer.
What is your favorite experience that you have done? Yeah, or top 3 if you can't pick one.
Like at all, like in the whole.
Yeah,
it's a hard question to answer. Because
what things pop into your mind? You don't have to label them your favorite.
Yeah. I don't know, Blair. One of the things that I always reference and always remember, like when we talk about these things, is Artsy's gallery in Altspace. There's this wonderful visual artist, whose handle is Artsy. I don't know how it's spelled off the top of my head.
ARTSY.
ARTSY. You can find their handle on Altspace and follow them. But they created this beautiful gallery of Black artists in XR, and we always take our field trips in there when we are starting to get people to know what XR is, and everybody's always blown away. And there's always people in there. There's always strangers in there. It's so cool. It's such a cool space.
That is super fun because you first get in and people are like, I'm in a video game, what's happening? And you take them to some crazy world. They're like, this is cool, I can fly and do things. And then you take people there and it's quiet. And then it like slowly builds up. And it's the first time I think there's a recognition of how human and real these experiences can be. Because you're like, that's something, that's not a 3D object that somebody created. That's someone's real art, and it's here. And I almost can feel people starting to be like, am I real? What is real? That's what that is. So it's great.
That's really good. So you love games.
I love games.
You love games. I want to know like a favorite game and how it can relate to an XR experience, like something that you've played, and then like what can we learn from it, I guess.
I have been really, because I travel a lot, I carry my Nintendo Switch with me. And one of my best gaming experiences of my entire life, I think it's, if somebody lightning rounds asks me what my favorite game is, it is the game Hades, which is a game where you are the son of Hades, and the whole point is that you have to try to escape the underworld. There's all these things with
fun.
Blah blah blah. But it's one of these games where you essentially go through a dungeon and you're trying to get to the end, and you like die, and then you go back to the start, and then you have to keep going through and continually go through. What is so great about this game, it's based in the mythology, Greek mythology, but what it does is it does this like extensive storytelling through gameplay, and in what's essentially a Groundhog Day type situation where you're like continually going through and just beating up a bunch of monsters. You're learning so much, and there's so much richness in the characters and in the experience. I think it's a journey that's like linear and circular. And going back to what I said about having something that's like the Netflix rabbit hole, what I think we need to take away from that is, while there is replay value in Elven Assassin or Beat Saber or Pistol Whip or Super Hot, these games are either starting from A to B and then you're finished and you're like, I'm done, or it's a thing where you're getting in casually. I want a game where I need to come back, and every time I come back, I am discovering. Every time I come back, I am both beating challenges and doing all the fun things and getting, that endorphin rush from things flashing in front of my eyes. But I'm really, truly, it goes back to the story. I want to be, because right now these sessions are short. One should not be in a headset for longer than 30 minutes, to an hour, right? And so I want to get everything. I want the experience of overcoming challenges, and I want story all packaged into one. So that's what I hope we start to see more of.
I love that. That's a great answer.
Yeah,
that's a great answer. I think that we're coming close to time. Is it time for us to start plugging things?
Yeah, it is. I think it is.
Okay. So why don't you give us the plug, Blair?
Oh my gosh, there's so many plugs. So let's see what is coming up for us next. So you can find information about the Black Imagination series at imagination.black. That's our website. You will see the artists that we've engaged with in the past, members of our team, and just some of what we've mentioned here, our philosophy on what we think the future holds for Black artists in XR. You'll also see we'll be starting a series of courses in the beginning of the year for theater makers or anybody who's interested in the idea of live performance in theater in XR. That will be a series of discussions, workshops, and explorations. We'll be using VR headsets and other tools to really dig in as an introductory course to what the creation is. As we mentioned, we find it so valuable to start any project with the discovery process. And from that, the ideas that people can create are just literally limitless. So we will be doing that in a series of small group courses for folks starting in January, the week of January 17th, right? That's right. We've been down. Right, yeah. So if you go to our website, imagination.black, you'll see a link to sign up and get more information about that. We are, like we said, we are members of Crux, and as part of the larger Crux umbrella of things that we work with, we do virtual events for folks, but not just your typical like Zoom sort of meeting. We put together these really immersive and engaging events across a number of platforms, which are customized for what you would like your event to be. So if you're creating events and maybe you're going hybrid this year or trying to figure out what that word even means, we're definitely happy to talk about that and come up with ways that we can put that together. Nick, what's next for us?
What's us, the next big thing that we're working on? We have a few things that are on the slate. We're working with the Yerba Buena Center for the Arts, based in San Francisco. We've been working with them for about a year and a half now. We produced their YBCA 100 Summit to honor a bunch of artists that they're now working with. And we're helping YBCA, the Yerba Buena Center for the Arts, find ways to get their artists to be able to present things in XR. So they are working with what they call the Core 10. There are 10 artists that they've honored, they've given money to, and they're creating all types of different artwork that's both in person in San Francisco at their facility and virtual. So those things will be coming out in the middle of the year of next year or spring of next year. They'll start to roll out. We're also working with the Peabody Awards for the first time on their interactive awards. They're giving their first, I hope I'm not, I think that we can talk about this.
Yeah, sure.
But they're going to be awarding their first interactive awardees. And so we're helping in the presentation of those. And then there are, what else is coming up, Blair? Am I missing?
We have a lot of things in the works, events that will be coming up next year, but also, we're really excited to continue to explore and to create original ideas going into 2022, working with new artists. And we're always really happy to just sort of create. Isn't that fun, the creation? I think that's the best part of this, no matter what type of work we're doing. So yeah,
let's make stuff.
big step.
So if you all want to make stuff, feel free to reach out to us via imagination.black or find us on the interwebs, on socials and things like that.
I'm at BA Russell 4.
And
You have no idea what you're at. You don't even
I'm
have
at
an
all different types of things. I have not unified my social presence.
Oh my goodness.
I'm a bad XR person.
Well, we'll get on that. That'll be our next project.
Thanks. That's good.
All right, cool.
Well, Martin.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I mean, that was a great session, and loved your setting. Learned a lot. That was nice. So I didn't interrupt anything.
No
Thanks,
worries.
Martin.
Yeah. So looking forward to all the things you do and that come out. And yeah.
All right.
Great to see you around in the XR space.
All right. Thanks, Martin.
Excellent.
Thanks, Blair. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.